microphone's off for now. If you do have any questions as we go along, type them in the chat box. Myself and Owen will try and keep a track of them. We'll stop halfway through-ish. We'll answer some questions then if we can, and then there should be some more time at the end for some more questions. So I'm Brian Marshall. I work for the Sleep Charity. I've been there just over 3 years now, and my previous life before that, I was employed as a toxicologist and pharmacologist doing research. So I've had a bit of a job change and a career change, and it's a much more pleasant way of life is working for a charity. So really the overall arching thoughts for the presentation is really to get you thinking a little bit more about your sleep, potentially what you can do to improve it, and to maybe ask yourself some questions around how well and how good your sleep is. The charity was established back in 2012 by the CEO and the lady who built the charity up, Vicky. She was a teacher at the time. She was told her children couldn't sleep. She was given antidepressants herself, which didn't do anything to get her children to go to sleep. But that's kind of was a common theme around that time. She then developed this training method to get children to sleep without medication. It's all behavioural based, and that is kind of where our knowledge base comes from. The charity's work and the evidence base that we use is all based on our own work, and that is all researched and published through papers through various universities and hospitals, a number through Sheffield Children's Hospital and some other universities as well. We've won quite a number of awards locally around Doncaster, where Vicky's from and the charity was set up. But as you can see there, our biggest award was the Queen's Award for Voluntary Services back in 2021. That award is equivalent to the charity's OBE, so it's a pretty big deal, and we like to shout about it. Got a very, very simple sounding mission, but quite difficult to accomplish, which is to empower the nation to sleep better. And you are part of this wonderful nation. So some of the things we'll talk about first is sleep and its importance, and just to bring that to the forefront of your mind. So we spend about a third of our life asleep. We spend about another third of it at work, and so that only leaves us a third for having a laugh and enjoying ourselves. So let's make the most of it. Sleep is vital to us, and you can go without food longer than you can go without sleep. Not water, but just food. Only after a couple of days completely without sleep do your body function start shutting down and your psychosis start to happen, and all sorts of weird and wonderful things after that. So don't go without sleep. And it goes without saying that sleep itself has a massive impact on our physical as well as our mental health. Sleep is one of the great questions of science, and we still don't know for absolute certain why we sleep. It performs a number of functions, but the actual why we can't do that awake, we don't really know. So sleep is non-negotiable. Everybody has to do it, and it forms part of our body's physiological function of physical and mental recuperation. And there's a favorite quote from scientists back in the 70s: if sleep does not serve an absolutely vital purpose, then it's the biggest mistake evolution has ever made. Just how evolution could have changed us a little bit. If we were migrating birds, there are a number of migrating birds that sleep while they're flying, and they're able to do that because they can sleep one half of the brain at the time. They switch one half off, they carry on doing their daily things, generally migrating across huge distances, while one half of the brain stays on to maintain that flight, and then they switch off the other side and turn on the opposite side so they can carry on. If we could do that, we would be a 24-hour species. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not really sure. So sleep, how does it come about, and kind of what are the functions of it? So you've got to think of yourself as a bit of a battery. And when we wake up in the morning, hopefully that battery is fully charged. And as we go through the day, we deplete that battery, and our need for sleep increases. That's called sleep drive. It's partially functioned by our circadian rhythm, which is our natural internal body clock, if you like, and it's governed by a number of hormones, but it also governed by lots of routine in our life. So the circadian rhythm is the 24-hour clock of the body. That sleep drive and that circadian rhythm is governed by not only our hormones and the 24-hour cycle of our life, but our genes as well play quite an impactful role of that. We've heard of night owls and morning larks. They are generally genetic based, and those night owls don't seem to want to go to bed until the early hours of morning, but they equally don't want to get up until lunchtime. And the morning larks generally like to go to bed at a reasonable time or even early, but they wake up as soon as there's a crack of daylight in the sky. I definitely sit somewhere in between. And our daily routines, so when we wake, when we eat, when we exercise, when we work, play a massive importance as well to the circadian rhythm. The time we wake up in the morning and the time we go to bed really affect it. We've all had jet lag, for that horrible, trying to fit into that 8-hour delay is almost impossible. Darkness and light and darkness cycles and how they change through the year, or with electric lighting and other electrical stimulus, plays a really important role into a hormone in our brain called melatonin. And the role of light itself plays, and if you use light boxes or artificial light or other types of light stimulus, can affect hormone release and our wake dark cycle. So the role of darkness plays a massive functional role in this hormone called melatonin. Melatonin is predominantly a hormone that helps us drift to sleep and has played some part in getting us to staying asleep through the night. That sleep drive builds, and some part of that sleep drive is the production of melatonin late at night when when the lights go out and dark's being produced, and that's why turning lights down and things like that on an evening time is really important for you. That brings upon this melatonin, and hopefully it'll help us drift off to a well-earned peaceful rest. But if you equally, that bright light is the sleep robber, as we like to call it, and it basically inhibits the production of that melatonin. So going to sleep can be really difficult, and then it consequently disrupts that circadian rhythm in your body. So actually, while you're asleep, you don't just lie there, go to sleep, and nothing really happens. There's different stages of sleep, and there's different cycles of sleep. Um, so there's 4 distinct sleep cycles. Stage 1, very light sleep when you're easily aroused. That's kind of thing you do on a Sunday afternoon after you've had Sunday lunch and you're watching TV, and the kids sneak in and change over your channel. And you're like, I was watching that. Probably wasn't, but you're in that light sleep, so you're easily aroused. Stage 2 is where sleep really starts to kick in. It's still quite a light sleep, but it prepares your body for the next 2 stages, which are the deep sleep and REM sleep. And deep sleep is this very slow wave sleep. On the histogram on the side of the slide there, you can see how far apart those waves are in the early part of the evening compared to the later part of the evening or early morning. And it's these different waves that have different functionalities. Stage 3 is almost impossible to get woken up from, and if you do get woken up from, that's when you feel very groggy and disorientated. And then we have REM sleep, which is um, identified by the movement of the eyes while you're asleep, generally associated with dreams and our dream sleep. You can dream in other stages of sleep, but it's not as functional, it's not as vivid, they say, as the proper REM sleep. So as we go through the night, adults go through these cycles of start off in stage 1, go into stage 2, 3 REM sleep, and then they come back up out of those cycles into stage 1, and you can see that on the histogram. But there's two distinct sides of that. The early part of the evening, there's lots of slow wave sleep. There's lots of this deep stage 3 sleep. This is our restorative sleep. This really helps our body repair and our cell reproduction work properly and our cells repair. And then late in the evening and early in the morning, this is when we do our slightly lighter sleep. We have lots more REM sleep. We have lots more stage 2 sleep. And this is when our mental function actually repairs. That fast brain waves is almost identical to a wakeful person. But there's lots of housework going on in that brain at those times, and that mental function is all those chemicals and those free radicals that are produced during the day are all cleaned out at that part of the sleep. So you need both sets of sleep. A true or false exercise. Oh, this was later. There we go. I'll ask the questions and answer them for you. See if you can get to them first before me. So first question, does everybody need 8 hours sleep? Take a sip of my tea. You can think about it for a second. And the answer to that is yes and no. So we say 7 to 8 hours is a good starting point, but there are many people that will need a lot more sleep. So 9 to 10 hours is quite normal as well, but so is 6 to 7. So everybody's different. Everybody's need and the type of sleep they have is different. So we band around this 6 or 8 hours, 6 to 7, 7 to 8 hours, but it's not really necessary for everybody. And the next question, napping during the day, is it good for you? Well, again, yes and no. Napping during the day is good for you, unless it impacts on your sleep. If you find it difficult to go to sleep on an evening, then but you're having naps during the day, that sleep drive that we spoke about almost resets that sleep drive when you have a nap in the afternoon. So then if you're not feeling tired at a reasonable time at night to get that 7 to 8 hours kip, then maybe the napping is not for you. Next question. So can you catch up on lost sleep? So if you normally have 10 hours sleep a night, and on Friday night you go out, you don't get to bed till the early hours, you have 4 hours sleep, and you try to have 14 hours sleep Saturday night. No, that does not work. That catching up on sleep doesn't work. Once you've lost it, you've lost it. That's because you need the duration of hours to get both types of sleep. You need that early hours in the evening for that slow wave, and then you need to stay asleep to induce that faster wave sleep, so the functionality of your brain can reset. Should you avoid screen at bedtime? The easy answer to that one is yes. Please avoid as much screen time as you can at bedtime. But there's evidence out there that modern screens are not as bad as old screens. The blue light produced by modern screens is not as intense. And where there is blue light in a lot of new devices, when they pick up reduced background light, that blue light gets reduced as well, particularly on things like an iPhone. Some TVs have that functionality as well. But apart from the actual light that stimulates your brain, it's what appears on the screen that is almost as important, and some might say more important. So if you have lots of visual stimulation from your TV, if you're watching an action movie, a horror movie, or you're playing on a computer game that's very fast paced, it's that stimulus that might play more of an important role over the actual screen and the light that's coming from it. And on to the next one. Older people don't need as much sleep. That's absolutely false. Older people need just as much sleep as anybody. Um, Often, older people, well past retirement, their daytime routine doesn't look the same as somebody that's at work. They're able to nap probably more. My grandma, for instance, she goes to bed a lot earlier than I do. She's in bed by 8:30, sound asleep by 8:45. But then she's up at 5 o'clock every morning, and then supplements that with a at least a nap as well after a cup of tea in the afternoon. So she's still getting that sleep, but her nighttime routine is shifted to an early hours and early morning. So older people generally do need the same amount of sleep, but it's looking at their sleeping pattern and what they're doing during the day to build that sleep drive that they need. Sleep issues are common. Is that true or false? An obvious one. We wouldn't exist if it wasn't true. Yes. Generally, 40% of people have a sleep issue across the board. But if you are any type of neurodiversity, or if you suffer from anxiety or stress, that quickly increases to 80% for that cohort of people. So if you are neurodiverse, the chance of you having sleep issues is 80%. Having a quick drink helps you sleep. Drink of alcohol. Many people say yes to this one, but it's not actually true. It might help get you to sleep, but it doesn't help you sleep properly. We're missing out there. So alcohol disrupts your sleep cycles. I mean, so instead of going through all those 4 sleep cycles and then the different phases through the night, alcohol will help you drift off to sleep in some cases, but you only stay in very light sleep. So that N1, N2 stage, and you'll dipping in and out of that through the night. You'll generally have a lot more awakenings that you probably don't know about. And that poor sleep is what leads to you feeling like absolute rubbish the next day, or can lead to that. The amount of alcohol plays a bigger role in that as well, but the sleep doesn't help in. And one of my favourites, eating cheese at night gives you nightmares. So that's a great one for tell the kids, but it's an old wives' tale. It's absolute poppycock, false. Cheese does not give you nightmares. Eating a big meal before you go to sleep, or trying to go to sleep, can give you disrupted sleep, but cheese doesn't. In fact, eating cheese and whole grain crackers and things like that can help sleep, and a little bit of supper like that, especially for children, yeah, can help for a restful night's sleep. Um, any questions before we go on, are we? I mean, I'll just have a quick bob in the chat. Was it just about?
It was just about will there be a copy of the slides afterwards?
Right, okay.
But apart from
Uh,
that,
um,
nothing.
are you recording the session, Owen?
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, you'd be able to see the recording again. So go through the slides at your leisure. Okay, so what stops you sleeping? Um, there are many common causes. We are all individuals, and these don't necessarily ring true for everybody, but a lot of people, exercise and working hours, shift work, they play a massive role. Exercising too late at night, it's not great, or duration of work, or shift work. They really mess up your sleep wake time and that circadian rhythm. Stress and anxiety, whether that be something very transient, like knowing you've got to get up tomorrow for a journey somewhere, or long-term anxiety due to health conditions. All of those things will disrupt. Partner disruptions, yeah. Having a partner that snores is a nightmare. My wife is deaf in one ear. I snore like a pig, so we found each other. We can get around that one like that. So that's always a good one. Um, Bedroom environment, something to think about. What does your bedroom look like? Is it full of work equipment, full of clothes lying around on the floor? Your teenage bedroom has probably looked something like that. The bedroom needs to be a quiet, tranquil place, um, not a gym, not an extension of the office. Try not to do any office work in there or homework if you're younger, or do your studying for university. The bedroom should be for sleep, and it should be nice and quiet and tranquil and not full of bright lights and bright colours and things like that. You want nice muted tones. Think peaceful meditation area, and that's all that should happen in there. Everything else should be outside of the bedroom. Lifestyle and habits, particularly um, types of exercise, when you exercise, and your screen time, what food you eat, all play into this lifestyle role and how that can affect your sleep. We've talked about napping before, but inappropriate napping, like getting home from work from 7 o'clock, having an hour's nap, and then expecting to go back to bed at 10, probably is not going to work for most people. Uh, then there are the conditions associated with sleep and health conditions. So, insomnia, a legitimate health concern that needs addressing by health professionals. And if you do suffer from long-term sleep problems, go and see your GP. Again, if you often wake tired and you snore, then get yourself checked out for obstructive sleep apnea. All GPs are pretty much set up for both of those conditions and should be able to help you relatively easily. I have heard of GPs that are not helpful with obstructive sleep apnea. If you go to a GP and they are not helpful, just go and see a different GP. They really should be helping you. And then other health conditions, for the ladies, menopause is the biggest thing. That really does screw with your uh, sleep cycle in numerous ways. Um, there is a separate part of our website just dedicated to those ladies going through that. Did I skip by there? Just, and then one thing to remember is if you do wake during the night um, at 3 o'clock in the morning, try not to worry about it. You're not alone. There are loads of people out there doing the same as you. Almost half the country probably are awake at the same time. So don't stress about it. Don't clock watch. If you're asleep for longer than 20 minutes in bed, try and get up and maybe do something. Go for a steady stroll around the house, come back to bed and try again. If you're waking through because of anxieties or worries, write them down. But we reiterate the don't rule out underlying health conditions. If you are not sleeping properly for a week or so, then go to your GP, get it checked out. There may be something more untoward going on. So now we're into the really depressing bit of the facts on what sleep deprivation can do to you and how you feel. Um, I am slightly sleep deprived myself. I raise guide dog puppies, and we had a new 5-month-old, sorry, dog arrive on Wednesday, and he doesn't sleep. So neither does the house. It's my challenges, and because of that, I have all of these. I certainly am grumpy in the morning from lack of sleep. My brain is like mushy peas. Yeah, lack of concentration, definitely, and slower reaction times. I try not to react very quickly anyway, so that doesn't affect me. But if you are a driver, you drive for a living, if you operate machinery, if you are a sports person, then all of those things play a significant role in not helping you fulfill your daily duties. Impact on health and well-being. So yeah, these are the more common things. So if you have 4 to 5 hours long-term poor sleep, then you will suffer from low mood. You will suffer from mood swings and irritability, and that really plays into depression and anxiety and stress. Physical health conditions that will come out of that are your chances of heart disease and stroke hugely increase. Something like 6 times you're more likely to increase of heart disease if you have less than 6 hours sleep. Your chances of Alzheimer's also increases. The guys on the Alzheimer's Association hopefully spoke about it briefly, but yeah, sleep plays a function in getting rid of all the rubbish out of your lymphatic system that runs through your brain, and so that those chemicals that get rid of are thought to play a part in Alzheimer's, and that's why sleep and Alzheimer's are associated together. Um, Lack of sleep and obesity and type 2 diabetes, they go all of those go hand in hand together. When you don't sleep, you have increased appetite, and that increased appetite is generally for fatty, high-calorie foods. You're also more sedate as well when you obviously when you're sleep deprived, and with all of those things, you have a lower immune system as well. So lack of sleep, you're eating the wrong foods, you're not moving enough. This reduces your immune system, but particularly in your stomach as well. That stomach area plays a huge part. How that impacts us in the workplace. Shockingly, the UK economy loses £40 billion a year due to sleep issues. And if you have less than 6 hours of sleep a night, you on average have an extra 6 days off of work on sick, compared to those workers that normally have 7 to 9. So yeah, obviously you're lethargic, you're not feeling the best, so your productivity is going to take a nosedive for that one. And in general, our mental and physical well-being are not up to standard as well. And just to highlight all of those, great slide with some pictures. If you are suffering from any of these or any combination of these, then you probably are sleep deprived and maybe should think about what we can do to improve it. Yawning, moodiness, fatigue, with that top three there, and then irritability and depressed mood and forgetfulness. And these things don't need to be there all the time, but if they're there regularly through the day, then yes, you need to look at it. Difficulty concentration, lack of motivation, and clumsiness. So no skateboarding when you're sleep deprived. Um, Again, that increased appetite represented by the beef burger, because that's what people crave. And it is tied to reduced sex drive as well. So get some sleep and just increased sickness in general. You're with a reduced immune level, you're more prone to normal coughs, colds, things like that. The question of quantity versus quality. So which do we need more? So quantity is a measure of how much sleep you get, so your duration. The amount we need to function mentally and physically. Again, we're banding the 7 to 8 hours here, but you need to realize that everyone is different, and less than 6 hours is not great for most people over long periods of time. The quality of your sleep can make a huge difference as well. How well you sleep, how quickly you fall asleep. Do you fall asleep within the 20 minutes of going to bed? And how many of those wakings a night do you have? Do you have multiple wakings a night? You should probably only have 1 or 2. It's normal. And then how much time you spend in bed to how much time you sleep in bed. So the bedroom's for sleeping, not for lounging around in. That's for the sofa in front of the TV. And when you wake up, how do you feel in yourself? Do you feel energized and rested and restored? No surprise, we actually need both quantity and quality. That depends on the individual, but those sleep cycles through that histogram that we said about earlier, people need different amounts of those. Some people can manage to cram all in those sleep cycles into a shorter period, so they have less sleep, but it's good quality. So they're able to function on that 6 to 7 hours. There are people that need 9 to 10 hours, so their sleep cycles are wider apart, so they still have the same quality of sleep. It's just over a longer period. And how to determine how well you sleep. Again, if you're waking up well, happy and ready to face the day, then generally your sleep's probably good. If you're not suffering from any of those adverse side effects of lack of sleep, like mood, you're always going to be physically healthier if you're having good quality, well rested sleep. So if you're generally in good health condition, then you're probably getting enough sleep as well. And sleep hygiene is also important. Sleep hygiene is what we call our routine before bedtime. So that hour before bedtime, how does your routine look? Is it turn off the TV, brush your teeth, get into bed? That's not a bedtime routine. We don't want people doing that. We want a nice slow cool down from the day to reduce stress levels and things. So if we need to get some quality in our sleep, what can we do? Nothing groundbreaking here, you'll be glad to know, but there is some basics that are pretty hard to change. You need to basically be curious about your sleep in the first place. You need to be asking yourselves a number of questions. So, how did you sleep last night? Sounds obvious, but when was the last time you thought about it? What does your bedroom look like? Is it a crazy pile of absolute carnage? It's probably not a good idea or a good place to induce restful sleep. What do you need to go to sleep well? You need a calm environment, not be stressed. So you need to produce those. And when was the last time you had a decent night's sleep? Did you actually think about what you did? Was there anything different that happened between when you don't sleep well and when you do sleep well? Comparing what you've done all throughout the day and the evening, how do those two compare? How do you feel in the morning? How did you feel in the morning? Really go back and think about those and ask yourselves those questions. And do you have any sleep goals? Do you really want to change? That's down to you. And some of the changes, yeah, sound obvious. Putting them into place is a lot trickier, especially with adults than children. Children are a lot easier to deal with than you grown-ups. I much prefer working with children. Quick and easy wins to help improve your sleep. Cut down on the caffeine and the alcohol. Caffeine sits around in your body for 12 hours. It's if you have a cup of coffee at lunchtime, it's roughly 80 milligrams of caffeine in a coffee. That's enough to wake you up. If you're sensitive to caffeine, at 12 o'clock at night, you've still got 40 milligrams of caffeine kicking around your system. If you're sensitive to caffeine, that is more than enough to keep you awake. There are lots of people that aren't as sensitive, down to the individual needs. Again, alcohol, drink at lunchtime, quit then, and don't have any in the evening, so we can get rid of it, so we can have a restful night's sleep. I didn't say that. Set a regular wake sleep time. You need to get up. You need to set yourself into a routine. Routine is everything with sleep, as it is with most things. So you need to go to bed at the same time. You need to wake up at the same time. Address your bedroom environment. Is your bedroom fit for purpose? Does it induce calm, happy, peaceful, restful thoughts? That's what it should do. Factor in a little bit of exercise. If you don't currently do any exercise, then 20 minutes, fairly moderate exercise. It can be a walk, fast walk, that's fine. That's all good. If you currently do lots of exercise, avoid doing it late in an evening, especially vigorous exercise. Going for a gentle stroll doesn't count as vigorous. Vigorous is going out for a road race or doing cyclocross racing or going down for a massive gym session, those things should be done as early in the evening or during the day, please, if possible. Exercise is great, but it also produces lots of stimulating hormones, and so that can affect your sleep. You need to give yourself some wind down time. You need to wind down from the day of work, stress, children, all of those things, getting overexcited by whatever TV program or what's happening on Love Island. Turn all that junk off and do something else. This often involves very things like hand-eye coordinating activities. So we're talking things like painting, drawing, colouring, um, knitting, sewing, those types of things. And my girls just reminded me as well, reading books is also good, but it can also be stimulating. If you're reading a really good book and you're nearing the end of it, you might not be able to put it down. You might end up reading for hours instead of minutes. So just watch that one. Start a really long, boring book at bedtime. Read some manuals or something. And again, avoid screen time. If you can't avoid screen time, turn the brightness down, especially on your devices. But again, it's think about what's on the screen as well as the actual brightness of the screen. What else can you do? Exposure to natural daylight, particularly in the morning, is really, really important. So natural light and daylight stop melatonin production. So you think about your bedtime routine and you start that as soon as you wake. So that's the start of your day, your circadian rhythm started, your internal battery is fully charged. You don't want to be sleepy, so to wake up, you need some daylight. Um, that stops your melatonin production. It wakes you up. It stimulates the brain and the eyes. Combine that with a cup of coffee if you want to, or a cup of tea. And being outside as well also has the added advantage as well. It's great for your mental health and well-being. Go for a stroll if you can. It doesn't have to be sunny. When is it ever sunny in the UK all the time? Never. So, but just being outside, brilliant for you. That really sets you up for the day. Um, Again, we've spoken about dimming the lights at night if you can. Difficult in summer, easier to do in winter. Find a way to separate your work from your home, if you can. Really important. Avoid clock watching. If you do go to bed and you're not going to sleep within that 10 or 15 minutes, 20 minutes, don't clock watch. Or if you wake up in the night, just ignore the clock. Just try and relax. And if you do wake up because you're worried about certain things, often writing them down helps massively. Get yourself a pen and paper, leave it at the side of the bed. If you do wake up, you've got these racing thoughts or something like that, write them down. The actual function of writing them down um, shifts them from functional brain to other parts of the brain that actually can reduce stress levels. And pretty much lastly, from me, um, we have a National Sleep Helpline that's staffed by people that are trained by the sleep charity. Most of them have worked in all sorts of health practices for many, many years. They are a fabulous bunch of people, very knowledgeable. You can give them a ring on various times. The times are on our website. I should know the times, but I don't remember them off the top of my head, sorry. And also on our website, there's some audiobooks on there, there's some ebooks on there, and there's huge amounts of information, all for free as well. If you do suffer from insomnia, there's two apps there that potentially can help you out. CBTI is obviously cognitive behavioral therapy with the I, which is specifically around insomnia and people that suffer insomnia. The NHS is very well set up for insomniacs and very well set up for dealing with them. So please pursue that avenue, as well as obstructive sleep apnea. Again, if you're slightly overweight, you wake tired often, or you wake multiple times in the night for no apparent reason. Often, these people with severe obstructive sleep apnea will be choking or have dry palates and things like that. Get it checked out. It's definitely worth doing. It's very easy. often it can be just a pulse oximeter, measures your oxygen level in your blood on your finger, and that could be it. And if you're unsure about anything, GP, if you can get to see one. If you can't get to see your GP, phone a different GP. The NHS is set up so you've got the right to choose. You can go anywhere you like. So don't get fobbed off by them. Stand your ground. Thank you very much. Over to you guys.